It begins in the high plateaus above Zion National Park, where melting snowpack gives it life. For the next 100-plus miles, fed by runoff and summer monsoons, it meanders its way through southern Utah, carving out a spectacular canyon along its path. It is the Virgin River, an unpredictable stream that can change from docile to destructive in a heartbeat, home to an incredible array of native plants, fish, and other wildlife, and one of the main sources of water for Washington County. The Virgin River provides a wealth of uses for all those who are graced by its splendor and yet challenged by its unpredictability. For centuries, the Virgin River has been a means of recreation, farming, and survival in a harsh desert climate. More than half of the Virgin's length resides in Washington County, one of the nation's fastest-growing areas. The river plays an indispensable role in the economy, indeed, the entire lifestyle here in southern Utah.
Washington County is one of the 2 or 3 fastest-growing counties in the United States and has been since the late 1960s. Our population has grown from approximately 12,000 people in 1970 to 140,000 people today. It's clearly becoming a metropolitan area of significance in southwest Utah and has shown as one of the favorite places for people to come and to live and to recreate.
Without the river flowing through Washington County, it would be difficult for us to survive here, let alone thrive the way that we have. But we have to balance those needs with the need to provide responsible environmental stewardship, which is why the Virgin River Program was formed. A multi-agency effort of state, local, and federal partners, the program works with municipalities, private citizens, and government entities to achieve its goals. The goals of the program are to protect, enhance, conserve, and recover native species in the Virgin River Basin while ensuring that water development can continue for human uses. The 8 elements to recovery are: identify baseline conditions, provide and protect in-stream flows, protect and enhance aquatic, riparian, and 100-year floodplain habitat, protect and enhance native species communities, establish additional populations of native species within historically occupied habitat, determine ecological factors limiting abundance of native species, monitor habitat conditions and populations of native species, improve education and communications on resources issues.
The program works on the 8 recovery actions constantly, all at the same time, so that we can both ensure the recovery of native species in the Virgin River Basin, while at the same time ensuring that water development can continue for human uses.
Due to the convergence of 3 ecological areas, the Colorado Plateau, Basin and Range, and Mojave Desert in Washington County, there are more than 30 rare and in some cases endangered native species in the Virgin River Basin. These species serve as indicators as to the health of the river and the ecosystem it supports. As long as these species persist, the river and the ecosystem are in good stead. That means that the people of southern Utah will have a good quality of life. If the species falter, we must step forward to protect our ecosystem.
Some of the main efforts that the program is conducting is red shiner eradication. The red shiner is a non-native fish that preys upon and competes with the native fish of the Virgin River. One of the ways we eradicate red shiner is through the use of a chemical called rotenone. It's perfectly safe for humans, cattle, bird life. Anything without gills is perfectly safe to be around and in the rotenone. Prior to introducing the rotenone into the streams, we perform a salvage. We'll go into the river and salvage the native fish from those areas. Again, pulling seines and nets through the water. We'll take the native fish and put them in coolers and take them into areas that will not be treated. When we're done with the treatment, we use a chemical called potassium permanganate to detoxify the rotenone before it goes down into Arizona and Nevada. This chemical, potassium permanganate, as well, is safe. It's used in water treatment plants around the world. We have installed what we call fish barriers. They will prevent the upstream movement of fish into particular red shiners into areas where we don't want them. We've also helped to screen the Washington Fields diversion so that native fish are not being taken into the diversion and put out onto the fields. As a result, we're seeing better population numbers with the fact that the screens are returning the native fish back to the river where they can reproduce and help the population grow.
Of course, it's always going to be a balancing act. While the program is particularly sensitive to the ecosystem, it also never fails to take into account the ever-expanding needs of our growing population base. Water for fish, water for people. It's a win-win solution all the way around.
I think people are a little afraid of the Endangered Species Act, and one thing that they don't realize is the Endangered Species Act is to not only save species, but the ecosystems upon which they depend. Here, the balancing act is to try and provide water for the fish and for the riparian habitat, but at the same time to make sure there's water for people, for all the uses that take place in Washington County.
The program operates primarily within the state of Utah along the Virgin River and its tributaries in Washington County. Activities are being conducted for different species assemblages in different locations. Woundfin, Virgin River chub, flannelmouth sucker, desert sucker, speckled dace, virgin spine dace, and southwestern willow flycatcher are all found in or around the main stem Virgin River below Potempe Hot Springs. Tributaries of the Virgin and those areas above Potempe have species assemblages that differ based upon a natural lack of 1 to 2 of the native species.
The program doesn't just view fish as the only issue that we're working on. We are trying to help the community as a whole as well as the ecosystem as a whole.
We created the Virgin River program to deal with the native and endangered species in this system and to look for win-win solutions with goals to not only just provide water for people, but provide water for these native species. And we think the Virgin River program is performing that role admirably. It's avoiding polarization and conflict and finding win-win solutions with adaptive management.
With the help of the Virgin River program, we'll continue enjoying our outstanding quality of life for as long as people want to live here. And the river will continue to splendidly wind its way through Washington County, just as it always has. That's good for the fish and for the rest of us, too.